子孙说，我并不比我哥差。
Hello and welcome back to the Blizzard Arena here in Burbank, California. We are at the tail end of Group D play. We just watched Team Expert send the team from Taiwan packing. Soul Torturers are out of BlizzCon this year. Maybe try again in the next. Bad Benny said it was the spicy chicken that fueled their victory. Will that chicken be enough for them to take a win over SPT from China? Or will the Chinese team rise above their roster issues to claim a spot for China in the quarterfinals? Let's go over to our desk. James, what do you think?
It's going to be a good one, I think, as EXP, Mr. Expert, the team that is Expert, is looking to try and round out this group. But of course, SPT has proved so far today that they are no small task at all. To my left-hand side, we have Skimmy, we have Wade, Dreadnought, that guy. I keep calling him Wade. It's
Second
weird.
time.
I don't know. It's very strange, isn't it?
You never call me Wade, like off camera or anything.
No,
it's
I don't.
just only when we get on camera, like, now his name's Wade.
I don't know, my brain's kerfuffled. And of course, at the very end, we have Kaldor. So,
why do I not get this special treatment?
Can't remember.
Andre,
that one, right?
Andre.
Yeah.
Sweet, man.
All right, let's take a look at Group D and see how things have gone. It's been a fun 4 days so far. We're about to round it all out with SPT going up against Team Expert. Of course, Ballistics backed themselves the first spot up to the top, and it was very, very decisive by them. So, gentlemen, SPT versus Team Expert. Expert looked pretty good there against Soul Torturers in the past 2 games, Kaldor.
Yeah, they looked a lot better, I would say, on Tomb. I talked to Athera afterwards. He promised me he's not going to run it down again mid lane. And as long as he gets Tracer, he's going to be very happy. I think they had a couple of shaky moments in the mid and late game on the last map where they allowed Soul Torturers to come back in. But overall, especially the early game, was pretty solid. And if they can continue their trend, they should be able to make it happen here.
I mean, I was just going to say, in terms of execution, it feels like for Expert, they kind of woke up a little bit. It's hard to really know exactly what their mentality was going into that first series against Ballistic. But I mean, in terms of their rival SPT in this situation as well, I feel like they played pretty well against Ballistics as well. So in terms of where I'm going with this to sort of decide the matchup, I feel like it's going to come down to macro to a degree for Expert to try and take the win in the end.
I think that's a fair assessment. The one thing that I'm a little bit concerned with on the side of Expert specifically is the fact that it seems like they have been kind of playing passive. And yeah, it did feel like they were waiting a little bit more. You know, they were warming up to it and then they got a lot more aggressive. But if they don't kind of force the hand as effectively as we saw like they were able to do against Soul Torturers, I feel like SPT does have the individual skill level to really turn around some fights, especially with players like Sanjiao.
Well, let's focus on SPT to start things off, of course, as they are, you know, again, both of these teams, in fact, one series away from elimination, but one series away from moving on to BlizzCon, Kaldor.
Yeah, the one thing that impressed me, especially when we looked at the first series, is that they seem to come online in these games, especially towards the later stage of the game, when we have very impactful team fights, especially because of the long death timer, have a huge impact on the outcome of the game. And as long as they win those, they can easily snowball that to a victory by grabbing a key or maybe even pushing it towards the core. So, early game victories, fine, nice and well, but if SPT is able to get these late game fights again against Expert, then Expert could be in trouble here.
I feel like if I am Expert, one player, if I wanted to try and focus on and pick on, it would definitely be Soap. He has made some major plays for the team. I feel like he kind of clutches it out when he needs to, but it does feel like kind of in the early to mid game that he's been a bit lackluster. He's made the right rotations. He's gone for the play. It's just the skill shots haven't necessarily connected. So I'm looking at that for the members of Expert, trying to exploit maybe the lack of confidence he's displayed in his play today.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like it's a case of going back to my original point, much the same as you say there, just playing proactive, being the ones that take the advantage. You're taking the ball and saying, this is the strategy that we want to go with, and you have to play around that. And I mean, they really sort of showcased that on the Sky Temple game, where you get to see they were continuously always running around, not really any idea, I'd say, as critical as that sounds, as to really where they want to go with things. It's like, I can use this ultimate, I can, stage dive in. Ooh, I cleared a minion wave, right? So it comes down to, if Expert can get the map that they're after, if they can get the macro play that they deserve, then it's going to be a close game.
Well, it's on to Team Orange, Team Expert here, who stares at them from across the other side of the stage as we have this best of 3 about to ensue. What can you highlight about Team Expert so far from this group?
No, just talking a bit about the mindset heading into the group, as we talked about it earlier. They personally felt that they would trade better into Ballistics. They didn't really necessarily expect to come out as the first seed, but they expected the series to be a lot closer. So they now understand that there's quite a gap that they have to fill. On the other hand, when you hear them talk about their next opponent, about SPT, they expect them to be very much on a similar level as Soul Torturers, especially looking at the first series. It was a clean 2-0 if you only look at the score, but Soul Torturers really brought the fight to SPT. So Expert expects a very similar style to come out, a very similar power level, I would say. But they are, of course, quite careful here, since they know that every single little mistake that you make right now could mean the end of you at BlizzCon at the HGC finals.
I think from a overall playstyle and maybe overall team strength level, I think I can agree with that assessment from like Expert's perspective, but I do feel like it's maybe not giving enough credit to SPT on an individual level. The coordination does seem to be kind of struggling, but when we watch their play, like specifically Misaka and Xianqiao, I feel like their play level on an individual level has been so impressive that I would just be I would be more, hesitant if I was the members of Expert.
One more live opportunity during opening week here, whilst we get into the 2017 HGC finals, to keep cheering for the teams that you want to actually progress and do well. And you can cheer any team, actually, to be honest with you, even if they've been completely eliminated. As we do have 26 million cheers, almost reaching that 27 million as it keeps rising and rising. So a huge thank you to the HGC universe for contributing and supporting the teams as we move on, as well as grabbing yourself a few goodies along the way. Skimmy, what are your thoughts about Team Expert?
Team Expert, I mean, they were the hard to say, I wouldn't say favorite, but a lot of teams have actually said that, they are a strong team to obviously deal with. As broad as that sounds, it comes back to the original point to start the day off with as to where do we assess the European power. Fnatic, Dignitas, for the most part, really controlled that. Obviously, Expert come themselves into this, their second big LAN event, really, to try and obviously go onto the biggest stage possible. In terms of nerves, they didn't really say that was a big factor. They said, obviously, they've boot camped, they've practiced hard for this. I think as long as they're in their heads with the confidence, I think confidence really is going to be the name of the game for both of these teams, to be quite frank, as to whether or not they get the picks that they want, they can execute it as well. And once that momentum is there, we could see potentially the 2-0s on either side.
All right, let's find out which battleground we're going to be heading to here as Expert goes up against SPT, and it will be Brax's holdout. That's not where I expected to go to start things off, Caldor.
Yeah, not quite. So this is once again a situation where we could see a special strategy come out of a team, but then again, it's also a map that Expert has played and chosen in the past. So I think they are going to be well prepared for this. I want to come back to a point that Skimmy just made, because he talked about power levels and what to expect here, and I think for a lot of our viewers that's also a big question. And I think when we're talking about the Korean and the European teams, most teams here agree that in general Europe and Korea are roughly on the same level, with the top two having a bit of a gap towards the third team. So if you look at the third seed out of Korea, which is Tempest, they are quite a bit removed from Ballistics and MVP Black, and then that resulted in them actually even being eliminated. Expert is in a similar situation right now, so them losing against the number 2 seed out of Korea is not really quite a surprise. As I said earlier, they expected the gap to be a little bit closer, but they didn't say, hey, we expected to be the favorite heading into this.
I suppose we have this little weird dynamic in Europe, aside from League play, where the Western clash, Dignitas didn't get there, so we never got to get that full glimpse into Dignitas Expert level-wise.
Yeah, exactly, it's a really good point, and especially Dignitas is currently performing, I would argue, even a little bit better than Fnatic in the way that they present themselves. But heading into the draft here, Expert, now that we have Braxis, is actually expecting something like a siege composition from their opponent. You can tell that immediately. They ban out Zarya. We already had some Zarya play on the side of the North American teams that tried to siege up quite heavily in the early game. So Expert is playing it at this point a bit safer and try to eliminate all kinds of potential cheese that could come out of SPT.
There are a lot of wild picks that we have seen from SPT over the year on a map like Praxis Holdout. From Artanis, we have some Ragnaros coming out from them. I mean, they've had Nova at some point in time, as we saw at the Western Clash. Like, they're very comfortable flexing, and not to, you know, forget the fact that China was the first to bust out the Zagara strategy on a map like Praxis Holdout. So I think concern towards Siege, I don't want to use the word cheese because it very much is not the case. This is the meta within the Chinese region. Is something, I like the fact that we already see Expert putting concern in that with the Zarya ban.
I want to see now if Expert are going to go for that Tessida high priority pick. We've seen it being a defining pick really for them today.
I mean, this is the first time Medivh has not been banned against them first, correct?
It is, I believe, the very first game they've had the opportunity to.
Now we have Expert with an early Genji. There's a lot of first picks that are really absolutely excelling here. We have seen in North America, for example, a high priority on Morales on this map, and other regions have followed up on a higher priority with Morales just in general. When we're talking about Braxis Holdout, a hero that I could have seen also as an earlier pick is, for example, Chromie. Expert is known to have an excellent Chromie player. She oftentimes gets a lot of value here. It's just a question how you want to start into this. And Genji, of course, is extremely fast with the rotations that he has. He's extremely mobile, and he can always try to cheese that boss a bit.
I feel like if SPD did not go with the Murden in that 1-2, that they would have set themselves drastically behind in this draft. Not only is Murden one of the best at backdooring the shrines on a map like Braxis Holdout, but it also deals pretty well into the Genji with his new double stun and being more predictable to land it. But beyond all else, we have seen what Expert is able to do. They have high priority onto the Murden, one of the highest in this entire tournament, and the synergy they displayed with the Genji. It was just a nice, kind of triple play here just within one pick.
No, also you're going to deny the polybomb that we've discussed with the Brightwing. Brightwing really being a big standout, I'd say, from this tournament, probably one of the biggest in total as she comes across here. So a denial, obviously a counter pick towards it as well, and that'll work quite nicely also into that Sonya matchup.
A lot of wave clear there as well by picking up the Rhaegar synergy. It aids with having that kind of double melee assassin. But the biggest thing that I enjoy about the laning situation, or at least from some of the picks that we see so far of Expert, is they have a really strong opportunity to have unique laning and very fluid transitions between the two. Again, utilizing that Genji, but oftentimes it will be matched by the Brightwing and Murden in the 1-2 here of SPT.
Normally this is hovered for a certain reason on this map. Interesting to see that going down.
Yeah, right now I'm actually pretty interested in general. For Expert, I really feel this is exactly what they want right now. As you said, that they would have loved to take the Murder. They would have been in a great spot here, but at the same time now with Sonya all of a sudden, this is exactly the hero that they want for Ethereal Angel. They have him on the solo lane, they have wave player in form of Rhaegar now too. So I think from an opening into that draft, this is absolutely fantastic for Expert.
Nubarak is going to be banned out. What do we see as a response here for Expert?
First ban we've had on Nubarak?
I believe it is.
It might have been the second.
Really have not seen much of him this time.
I'll look down, but yeah. So obviously it's, they may want themselves a mage later on down the line. Very nice to be able to potentially get rid of that, but it's uncommon nowadays.
I don't want to get too wild here, but I want to put Cho'Gall out of the realm of possibility.
That's, yeah.
Okay, here's the thing. Cho'Gall, I would say no, because they have to pick him right now.
I agree with you. That is the biggest struggle, is it leaves the follow-up. But I just wanted to say, when I see that in Nubarak, like, do not run it past the Chinese region on Braxis. They will bust out the Cho'Gall and body something.
When I saw the Nubarak ban, I was like, okay, same thought process. It could be a Cho'Gall. But then again, if you pick Cho'Gall, the problem with Cho'Gall is you want to pick him as late as you possibly can so that you avoid counter picks. And that would be a very early one. Again, we have seen crazy strategies. We have stuff like this in the past, and it can be incredibly powerful, and it would work very well with what they already have. But Expert could follow up on that real quickly with counter him directly.
What are they thinking here? Brightwing and Mirrodin would obviously love to go for this Valo. Some show on that one.
Would allow for a lot of pressure and essentially force a response to the laning situation for the members of Expert. But we've seen what the Vala can do, what a Sonya Genji can do to a Vala very, very quickly, as Expert was able to display in the last series.
Okay.
But to go with the Malthael and the Lucio, this pulls a bit away from the kind of laning situation I would have liked to see from SPT, considering the high Murden and also the Brightwing. I feel like now that they have the mobility onto the Genji and the dominant laning situation, a wave clear from Expert, these next two picks, as long as they're a good duo together and self-sustaining, that SPT has lost that advantage with that backdooring of the Shrine that they seems like they were committing to with their first two picks.
This is actually something they've done during the regular season as well, and they finalized that composition out with a Lunara. So definitely something they're comfortable with, something they've utilized in the past. So how Expert respond with these final two picks?
We could still see that Chromie as well, because Genji is a hero that we usually see on Nick, but both AD, and Nick have played Genji and also Chromie in the past. So Expert has really started to work over the last few weeks on overlapping their hero pools on certain players so that they're a little bit flexible on to the end of the draft. So they could still flex into that if they wanted to.
Hoping we get ourselves a Tyrael here with these rotations.
There
Nope,
she is.
they bust out the Chromie, gonna stick to the ETC instead. I just feel like it would have synergized a little bit better, but also, you know, ETC has nice, I mean, he's an amazing hero, obviously, and has a lot of appeal. But just Tyrael, again, for mobility and synergy with the composition is always a standout thing for me. I really adore any hero that can leap over those walls from bosses to make sure you just make those shrines a big problem.
So why was the Anubarak banned? What goes in this slot?
You could argue
Well,
the Malthael was a big enough problem, but Inevitable End does secure quite a bit of time. They didn't want to pick a support that had a cleanse, so that might be the argument.
Yeah,
Single-handedly, just the Inevitable End isn't a long enough time to make the, you know, the pick worth it, but it doesn't feel like that's the case to me, or that it was worth it.
Also, if you research Expert, they have played a lot with Anubarak during the phase 2 matches that they played. So they really like to dive in deep with the comp. And if you look at what they had at the time, you have Genji who can follow up with it. You have Sonya who can also move in. And Expert in particular has played a couple of blow-up comps in the past where they play with Sonya and Leap. So maybe that was something that SPT was just very afraid of. If Sonya goes into Leap and Expert fully commits to a blow-up composition, lead the charge with the Anubarak, cocoon one of the healers, and all of a sudden try to get that kill. So it might just have been a safety ban where they are saying, we've seen them do that in the past. It's the one thing that we're a little bit scared of. Let's play it safe and see where we can get with this.
So the Leeming mixes in as well towards the end.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like the missing piece in the puzzle here, right? So you got Malthael that's going to be padding people's health bars down, tenderizing, if you will, with that Reaper's Mark and Leeming, able to come in with that one shot for those resets. Only real thing that scares me here is there are a lot of threats for that Leeming. If she can't get that reset, Genji and Sonya just walk all over her.
My biggest concern is it feels like with, again, that priority in the 1-2 to get the control over to the Shrines and then kind of backtracking with that with, it feels like the rest of their picks, their laning situation, by going to the Li Ming, they can't run a 2-1-2 anymore. So the Murden can't dance and match the dominant laning that we see out of the members of Expert. They pick the Chromie, which is going to be beneficial at deterring any advantage whatsoever that they may, by some kind of miracle, be able to pick up in this laning situation. So they are banking on not failing until the 10 mark, and I think Expert's composition is too good in the laning situation for that to be a reliable strategy.
Although
I'm really confident in Expert's ability to get the first victory in this game, just simply because they have a composition they are incredibly comfortable with. They have comfort picks for every single one of their players, and I think they walked away with everything they want, and I think the confidence alone is going to push them to a win.
All right, time to head over to our commentary team here for the final series of opening week here for the group stage. Who is going to advance onto BlizzCon? We're about to find out.
Alrighty, this cast will be brought to you with some love, so thank you to everyone at home that makes sure to free Grubby. You're the best. Grubby, this next round here for the best of 3 series here, game number 1. How excited are you for these two heroes?
It's good to be here again, and it's good to see this final match, this decider here between Expert and SPT. Expert's draft looks pretty potent, but SPT had a pretty good series as well. Let's see who will be able to do it.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch that top lane there, the Malthael versus the Sonya. Let's go ahead and jump into it here. Game number 1 in the best of 3 series, and we get to go to Praxis Holdout, which I actually really enjoy watching. That's one of the reasons why I watch North America, because we see so much Praxis there, and we get it occasionally in Europe.
Yeah, we see that map, and we were even wondering, all right, who selected this map? Is it going to be Expert? But it was actually SPT. And the Cho'Gall memories of when they played that before in the HGC China. But anyway, let's talk about, you know, the approach for both the teams here. Chromie, not a great pusher, but she needs to hit her skill shots in order to ramp up her damage into the mid game. And so one of the best counter strategies against Chromie is to not match her in lane.
Yeah.
Just go to the other lane, apply pressure. Every time you see Chromie show up, just go to the other lane. She doesn't push that hard, so it's okay to ignore the lane. However, SPT doesn't have that much siege damage. So I wonder whether SPT will be able to employ this strategy, Trixler.
Yeah, I'll be watching towards SPT, the Murden in particular, to be the one that applies pressure, not through wave clear, but through kill potential on Team Expert. Can he control that front line well? I think it will be difficult. You have ETC, and you have Sonya, and you have Genji, who can fling across the map there and jump on a target. In fact, Genji is used pretty often as a way to shut down that top lane. But because of how our two teams have drafted, we're actually going to have a 2-on-2.
Yeah, so that's pretty smart because either solo lane would get punished. Ethereal Angel talked about this in the team interview as well, that it's so rare to see a dedicated one-on-one lane. You see a lot of people coming in to heal the solo laner, you see a lot of people coming to bully the other solo laner, and as such, the solo lane as a concept at pro heroes play is pretty much over. So people that play Hero League should take notes of this as well. Help out your solo laner, do a good deed for the day.
And they will definitely respond in kind. They'll be doing their best in that lane, and of course giving you a spot where you can focus on that 4-man on the bottom side. And Team Expert did that. They had the Rhaegar go to the top there, hang out with Sonya, make sure that they had a tug of war that Sonya could win, even help push a little bit, and then Rhaegar rotated down to the bottom side to help out in the fight, which allowed for some damage there on Lucio, and even got him low.
Bit of damage on Misaka as well, but his instincts were good. ADRD on the Chromie, not Nick this time, as Nick will be floating around on that Genji. He's trying to get his stacks there. Not that deep breathing quest that we see ADRD play sometimes, as you were mentioning before we launched into this game, but the standard Time Walker's Pursuit into Bronze Talents.
Yes, a very solid build, especially when you have an ETC on the field with you. The setup for that power slide into the Dragon's Eye combo, into a Bronze Talent combo, is pretty darn devastating. So especially in the early game on Braxis Holdout, where you know you're going to have that laning. You know people are going to be in the area around the beacons.
Like the early Hellbat camp prioritization by Team Expert helps out a lot. Big move here on Malthael, goes down. Suddenly Team Expert comes out like a surprise party from every angle. Surprise! And Malthael gets eliminated. Expert can use this by applying major pressure with those Hellbats to take down one, maybe even two towers.
You know, I think Malthael is one of those heroes that just does not appreciate a good surprise. He's probably upset about that. Probably going to go into an emo state, and we'll probably have him torment some souls later. But that surprise is great here for Team Expert. The 4-man jump onto a target, and it's opened the floodgates. SPT is trying to answer back, but Misaka is in trouble, getting caught on the side. A phase shift will have to come out just to make sure he stays alive, but Team Expert, they just disengage.
As a general rule, whenever you try to get a kill in a rotation, if you can't get it faster than 4 seconds, you should generally abandon it, as the other team has time to react in kind. They will be converging on your location, and a counter attack and a counter kill becomes increasingly likely. Again, this is good at pro play and Hero League and Quick Match as well. Try for a bit, 4 seconds, doesn't work, back off. And Expert shows this discipline like a master, of course.
That's a good point. I think a lot of people miss the value of getting a hero low. That's essentially a kill itself. You don't need that tally mark. Misaka, look at him. He's effectively low right now. He's away from the fight. He's basically killed off. He's just not respawning.
Exactly.
And that allows Team Expert to grab the beacon.
So now you've gained 10 seconds. What are you going to do with those 10 seconds? You have full life. Do you commit a full HP character to try and finish off someone who's 5%? You're basically giving away your lead. Nice move there, getting Misaka with that Dragon's Eye. Chromie, of course, gets her talents earlier on. That's a lot of damage on Misaka. He's getting healed up by Brightwing, by Lucio, by his second wind. And but that was pretty darn close.
That it was. Misaka getting low there. Almost saw, too, on Lucio, able to dodge out in the Sandblast. The Sandblast into a Bronze Talons actually connects on Lucio. It's half his health box. He has to be careful and dance around the area. Luckily for him, he has mobility to help him out. Now, Thorough coming in for a big flank, but Thorough's don't even need it. Team Expert's like, go back to top lane. What are you doing down here?
Yeah, but it's a cool option, right? Just this concept of Sonya suddenly coming in, a little bit more hard, crowd control there than Rhaegar would have had. Plus, he was busy on the Hellbat camp. camp. A very dynamic laning approach from Team Expert. Rhaegar doing a camp, going top. Sonya with the potential spear there, coming in with the flank. And it's the option of using her utility to get a kill. Now Malthael once again not enjoying the surprise party still. He likes his life certain, just as his death.
Team Expert just has the movement right now. The reason why those 2 kills were even available is because of how Thorough has handled that top lane. He's hung out in the bushes, playing around with that visibility that SPT had. So probably didn't call him as MIA, assuming that he was in the bush on the top side, because Rhaegar was still there, and Team Expert gets a kill out of it, also rotates to the top, and gets another one, which allowed for them to grab the entire beacon progress. They are a level ahead and have a Zerg wave pushing the top lane.
Exactly, getting those kills together, stitched together like clockwork, chain kills. Team Expert is able to get that 100% Zerg wave. Now note how Murden is excellent at actually tanking these Zerg waves. They don't even get to these structures. Unlike some of the boss mercs, some of the boss monsters on different battlegrounds, these mercs will entirely focus heroes whenever that's possible. They will not march straight onto towers, so halting them is very nice. Misaka now taking a lot of damage again, and he will jump right into the Dragon Breath from Chromie.
ADRD took him to the library and checked him out. He read that book completely, knew Murden was jumping away. I also like this maneuver from Team Expert. They let the Zerg wave push naturally by itself in the top side, knowing they would get the fort, but going to the bottom and sieging forward. Their siege isn't the best, but with no opposition for them, they were able to get the fort low and set up that kill on the Murden. But SPT is wanting to answer back. Melody looking for a combo, but Bad Benny, he is somehow living. Finally, he gets taken out.
And it was so close to get Melody C as well, but an inch too far might as well be a kilometer too far. Brightwing is alive and will heal herself back up to full. Bad Benny will be punished for his transgression. He'll be in the body bank for a bit, but that's a good result for the first objective here. Double forts down.
That's right, 2 forts being down. Now, as we get a couple moments to talk here, the perfect defense that was mentioned by Caldor on the analyst panel is very important as a Genji player at level 7. This gives you the ability to cheese the boss. The high attack speed that comes up from the boss will be able to be reflected straight towards that boss, and you can burn it down. So now SPT has to play around the idea of using the perfect defense and going for the boss, while level 10 is available for Expert.
Yeah, so will SPT deign to contest this boss? They do not have their level 10s. In fact, they're helping a little bit with the damage. Thank you very much. We took this boss half a second earlier than we would have otherwise.
We're all friends here at BlizzCon. I mean, might as well help an enemy out occasionally.
The enemy of your enemy is your friend, right?
That's right. Someone smart said that sometime in history, so there it is. If not, we'll at least give that to Grubby. Team Expert, 10-9 right now. A boss willing to push. Forts down. Everything going well for them. They're even advancing a little bit forward on the battleground, hoping to help this boss push a little bit. It's not the most ridiculous boss by itself, but you can use this as cover to try and break down a keep wall.
Now let's talk about how SPT could potentially get back into this game. First order of the day is going to be to get their experience total back up. This is no easy matter. Look where the top lane is all the way pushing. The Bruiser Cap is actually halting minions, which are basically little pockets of experience of Team Expert away from SPT. In order to soak that experience, one of the members of SPT would need to go all the way to the north lane. In the absence of a fort there, that would be dangerously overextended. So SPT at this point will do best to stick together, inch out one more wave at the bottom, and Brightwing should even portal in. She's in a very safe location, practically doing nothing, just stopping a potential top fort attack. And she has to come down right here. ETC will miss the stage dive, but this should be the fight that SPT would want to get. Anyway, the Zerg wave is already taken.
That's right. Team Expert with using stage dive to see if they can force something, but this does allow for them to be in a group of 5 anyway, so it's not really that big of a waste, but many might say, why would you try to stage dive in there? Just want to be a unit as 5, try to push in while SPT has that level 10. Now, how will the defense pop out here for SPT? Looking at their defense, they have Malthael on the side, who is slow but decent against a wave clear, and Lian Ming's poke. Other than that, this could prove to be very difficult.
Yeah, I mean, this is... In the end, it is a very teamfight-oriented draft. Tormented Souls is going to be the major deal here. Will dodge most of that Chromie damage. Malthael is the key, but Brightwing goes down.
Yes, Genji going for more. Grabs Li Ming on the side. Nick coming in here, looking at Saw. Can he grab it? No. He gets locked down by Masaka. The Zerg wave continues to hit the keep. A Thorough. He wants a Murden, though. He hits the beard with a couple of slams, and there it is. Saw trying to escape, getting out with a sliver of his health, but the keep not so lucky.
Not so lucky at all. We've still got a bunch of Broodlords here, Guardians in fact, that are still battling down on the base of SPT. Probably not enough siege damage to take down the core, but this was a job well done. Good days of work for Team Expert. They shall live to fight another day.
Well, Team Expert pulls away 13-11, only losing one in that 1-for-4 exchange, I believe there. So solid for them. They come up to the top and they defend that push that was coming their way without their fort even taking a lick of damage. Team Expert is in a wonderful position for this next beacon phase, and SPT, they're at a point now where they may have to start making some aggressive plays.
Yeah, even crazy ones. I would not mind. Just set traps, just attack. Even things that are very poorly positioned, fights that are poorly positioned, talents down, at this point seem like, I think, the best blessing that SPT can hope for, because they will lose effortlessly if they continue to play passively. Look at their comp. They have very little wave clear to begin with. Their composition is not designed to defend Zerg waves. They're supposed to win it on account of Brightwing's global, Murden's heal ability, jumping over walls to get to other beacons. They can never be in that position again.
SPT are definitely struggling, and here they are trying to make a play on Bad Benny. Suck comes in, wants to bring the knockback in, but Bad Benny is making some juice here, trying to outplay Misaka here, wanting to dodge out on that Stormbolt that could come in. So finally decides to engage, and will use Tormented Souls, but Team Expert casually walks away.
Yeah, that actually made sense, the sound barrier. It has a small wind-up, and it looked like Malthael might get power slid, as you could tell that Bad Benny was holding that cooldown. He did a double face melt, but he held the power slide. This is the hallmark of some of the better ETCs, waiting for that opportunity. He was playing off of Chromie's cooldowns. Look how fast Genji actually takes this boss. And time trap!
They're trying to go for the Emerald Win. Can they get it here? They do pop it in, but Thuro is holding the base. Same time jumping in here. Bad Benny's turning up to 11. He knocks away Misaka. So trying to hold on to the point, but he is just falling as Nick continues to slice and dice there. He's cutting onions here because SPT is crying.
Oh, what a bloodbath. Team Expert cleans up the boss. The entire team there of SPT as well, with a Dragon's Breath that hit 4 members, stage dive. Likewise, this was a hero damage padding heaven for Team Expert here. And now they have a boss, they have the Bruisers, and they will get double beacon progress as well.
This game looks like it might just be over. Can SPT find something deep within themselves? In 8 seconds, they will have Sound Barrier. In 20 seconds, Tormented Souls will be up. These are instrumental for SPT to have a chance and a fight. Misaka just jumps right on in. He's targeting Bad Benny. They want to fight this before the boss gets to the keep and the Braxis Wave joins in.
This is the last-ditch effort potentially by SPT. Teamfight has to work out, but Malthael will get shredded like a piece of shredded chicken by a Thero. Misaka will get power slid as well. Can he get away? Emerald Wind might help.
The dragon on the side here using it. We're going to be fine here. The other dragon, though, jumps into a big glass cannon here. Going to be able to hold for the moment. Finally turning around. Here comes the Sandblast. Does not connect, but Melody has to pull away. Zinjoao trying his best to get out of the fight, but Browning will fall to a wolf bite, and it looks like Li Ming barely getting out with, 5 HP. But look at this top lane. The core is just falling here as SPT will lose their first match against Team Expert.
What a convincing performance by Team Expert here in the final match of the day. It's the best of 3. They take the first map, the first battleground here. Winner goes to BlizzCon. Loser will be eliminated. And Expert looked very dominant there, but I don't say this often, Trickster, but I feel like this was an extremely tilted draft. The only way that SPT would be able to win is if they never give up an objective, they get kills, and they just stay ahead and snowball that, because their wave clear was nearly non-existent.
Well, didn't work out there for SPT. Let's see if our analysts agree with you here as we head back over to the plays.
Can't speak for myself, I guess, but how about we ask the gentleman? That's right. As Expert take the first game win here at Caldor, and pretty clean cut. A lot of cuts from Genji.
Yeah, that too. Bit disappointing by the Chinese team there. We talked about the draft already at the start, but Expert played it extremely well. And I mean, I'm going to be frank here. At some point, it felt like SPD was just randomly pressing R. that Malthael tormented soul at the top lane chasing Muradin was extremely awkward. Shortly afterwards, Lucio said, like, you know what, if you press it, then I do mine too. Some of those moves were a little bit odd.
They were definitely kind of odd, but I feel like even taking it back, like we were talking about the draft, essentially it felt very focused on having a 1-4 for some reason. It felt like SPT was really assuming that the laning phase was going to be played how Brax's holdout was played on initial release, and very quickly has that not, we learned that that is not the proper way to be able to play it. That there are there's not one exact laning situation, but the 1-4, you can only play that whenever you know your opponent is going to draw so much aggro in one avenue, and even then, I would say it's probably the riskiest approach to a draft. So they failed to kind of have all the tools necessary to be successful in the laning situation of Braxis.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of those tools, lack of wave clear was the biggest thing for me personally. And then you got the boss control, and we saw in that final boss fight, just the ability to go time trap, slowing sands, you jump in, everyone dies, right? So, I mean, you got the Genji, obviously we know how well he does with the reflect on the boss to eliminate that, but the biggest thing for me in that draft was Expert ran the solo support. They have enough pressure with their comp to